All right, so I have had some inquiries as to how I made this lighthouse. So I will show you what materials I made and just kind of give you a basic on what I did to put them together. It's not that complicated, it's just pretty time consuming. So here are the materials that I used. This is the tall tin planter from Dollar Tree. This is the top of one of the solar lanterns from Dollar Tree. You don't need the bottom. This is one of the larger of the clay pots that Dollar Tree sells. This is just a canning lid canning ring. I've already spray painted part of it. It was gold. Okay. This is a cake pan that I'm going to use for the base because I don't have another one of these that I just found at a garage sale. So I'm going to use this for the base on this other one I'm making. These are all just different colors of glass rocks and other rocks that I bought at Dollar Tree, and twine as well from Dollar Tree. The only things that are not from Dollar Tree that I used are these wood shapes that I got at Michael's and these matchsticks. I'm sure you can probably find something similar at Dollar Tree. Otherwise, at Michael's, they were pretty cheap. So I found them on clearance for like $1 a bag. The first thing I did was, you'll notice that this hole is pretty big. That's because the hole that is already in this is not big enough for this to fit through. So in order to put this on top, you either have to cut off this bottom plastic part, or you can do what I did. I used my husband's drill press, which has a grinding stone on it, and I just extremely gently drilled the hole bigger. Just big enough so that this can fit inside. Once I do that, I personally used E6000 adhesive, but I'm sure Gorilla Glue would also work. I glued that onto there, and then I used painter's tape in order to get the spiral pattern. I used wide painter's tape around the bottom, and then I used 1-inch painter's tape to do a spiral all the way up. This is after the first round of E6000 had dried, and then I spray painted the whole thing with white Rust-Oleum, you know, the 2-in-1 primer glossy paint. Once that dried, I peeled off the tape, and it left, it was silver on the can, and it was still the terracotta here. Now for the other colors, I just used Michael's craft paint. I used Art Minds, I think, was one of the brands for the super light one. And then the other one was just their like 2-ounce bottle craft paint that they sell. Yeah, and okay, but I guess before I started painting that, once I had spray painted the white and let that dry, then I put this on, and it rests on there almost perfectly. It almost fits perfectly, so I just like did a little ring of E6000 here just to make it stay, and then I also put just a little ring of E6000 around the edge of this and pushed this down onto it just to make that stay. And I did wait until after it was spray painted, because otherwise, you know, this would have been really hard to paint once these were on. I also spray paint this silver before I put it on there. I still have to do the inside of this one, because that would also be really hard to paint after it's on there. Don't put this on before you put the ring on because it won't fit through. Let's see. Okay, so once those are on, and that's all assembled, I'm just going to take that off for now. You can, I didn't like that you could kind of see the seam here because it doesn't quite cover that, so I just wrapped twine around it twice. And again, just used E6000 there. It really doesn't take much. You want to make sure that it's not so much that it's going to drip because it will take off your paint if you have to wipe it off. So you want to be very conservative with your adhesive when you're putting the twine on. And then you can put it on here. Yes, honey? Okay, for the doors, I have these wood shapes. I did chop off the bottom so that the door would be the right size. And then these windows, I just painted the way I wanted them. This was all just using the 2-ounce bottles of Michael's craft paint. And the stairs took a long time because I cut these matchsticks in half and stacked them one by one. And because I didn't like the way it looked on the side, I covered it with those rocks. And then I painted over those. These larger rocks are just ones that I got from my landscaping. And all these other rocks, I just would like do lines of the E6000 and just use tweezers to put the rocks in there, and did layers and lines until I liked it, basically. I used tweezers because the rocks are so small and I didn't want to get the adhesive all over my fingers. Yeah. And then once I was done with the whole thing, since I knew I wanted it outside, I sprayed over the entire thing with a polyacrylic protective coating. The one I used was a matte coating, so you can kind of see it made the silver less glossy, but I'm okay with that. You could use a glossy polyacrylic coating if you prefer. But I am happy with how it turned out. So hopefully this is helpful and you can make your own.